So welcome to this getting started session where we're going to look at how in 5 minutes you can build a test to automate your mobile application. We're going to use Perfecto Scriptless Mobile, and we're going to start by going to Perfecto, building a mobile test and selecting the device we want to work with, and in our case it'll be a Galaxy S10. Now on the left hand side we have these actions that are our scriptless actions. We're going to add them to our test. So the first is a reset of the device, this clean device, followed by the install application. And we're going to choose the application we want to install, and this is the application we're going to test. Now that's just our two-line test. Clean device, install application. We can now run this, and what you'll see on the device is the application being installed. So as you can see, the test is running. We've done the clean, we're now doing the install. At the end of this install step, you'll see on the device the application is now installed. Now the next step we need to do is actually to start the application. So we're going to go to the application panel. This shows all the installed applications on my mobile device. I'm going to select the expenses app we just installed. Now we have two options, run on device and add to test. When we click play, we've now added to our test start application step. And also on the device, we've now started the application we just installed. Now when you start an application, there may be a delay. So we're going to add a wait to our test. And the wait will be just set to 4 to allow the time for the application to start before we start the next part of the test. Now what we need to now do is actually log into this application. So we're going to use the object spy, and we're going to select the username. And as you can see there, we're going to enter the text, and we're going to use a variable. So we'll define what our username is. And again, we define if we want to run this on the device and also add it to our test. We then do the same for our password. And again, we select the password from our variables. We add it to the test and run it on the device. Now we also need to click on the login button. So in this case, we're going to use the click element, and we can just click in that same control. There's an accept button. And you can see again, we've now logged in to our expenses app. And we can now use the same process to add an expenses item. So we're going to click on the add item button. We're going to select on the drop down for the type of expense we've got. I'm going to select the taxi. We then use the text entry again to enter a value. So we want to enter the value of $100. And the next category is actually where we define what the currency is. So in the next drop down, we select US dollars. So as you can see, we're now walking through the process of our what would be a manual test and automating it. Now the final process we need to do is actually select the category of this expense. And we're going to click the drop down, and this is a business expense. And we'll then click the save button to save this expense within the application. So as you can see, as we're going through this, each of these steps is being added to our test, ready for us to run it. Now, before we proceed, there is one more thing we need to do is we want to do a check to make sure that the test is actually working. So we're going to close the object spy, and we're going to use the find text to validate that the word taxi appears on this screen. We're going to add the find text to our test. We're then going to enter the string taxi, is what we're looking for, and also we're going to add it to the exact match as well to make sure that that string appears on the screen. Now we have our test, what we can also do is tidy this test up. The login process is 3 actions, and we can combine those into a step. So we've said that the login process is those 3 actions. We can do the same where we actually created that expense item. We combine them into a logical step, give it a name, and it makes the test more readable. So we're going to say this is the add expenses item, and we click apply. So we can now run this test. We click on the run test button. We can set up default values. We click run. Now the first thing you can see in our test is the clean device. You'll see that we'll clean the device, remove the application. We then reinstall the application, start it. We have the wait to wait for the application to be ready. And then we'll walk through those steps we just added. So log into the UI, add the expenses item. The values we use in the test are obviously editable, and we can modify each of these sections within the test if required. Now, at the end of the test, as well as running in the IDE that you can see here, we're also running this on our platform. So at the end of the test, you'll see a view report button on the right-hand side. We're going to drill into that. We can now go and view the report of this test. And what we have is screenshots and videos. So on the left-hand side, we can expand the steps, look at all the steps of our test, look at the fact that the find text did work, navigate through the screenshots, and also run the video to show the video of the test that we just ran. So if we now go back to the test, we can take this basic test we just created and include a more complex use cases. We can add conditions. We can add a loop to loop through data to modify the way the test will run. We can then save these tests in a public and a private location, so these can be shared with your team so they can use the same test to test their applications. So as you can see, in 5 minutes, you can build a scriptless mobile test and start automating the testing of your mobile applications. Thank you.